You're listening to a podcast from thespoilist.com. Cyberspace, the new frontier. These are the voyages of the podcast First Contact. Its mission? To explore every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. To seek out new viewers and have new conversations. To boldly view what many have viewed before. Welcome to First Contact, the Star Trek The Next Generation introcast, where two veterans of Star Trek fandom guide a newcomer through all of the episodes. I'm Andrew.
I'm James.
And I'm Alex.
This week we are looking at 11001001, which was written by Maurice Hurley and Robert Lewin and directed by Paul Lynch. It first aired the week of February the 1st, 1988. James, what the hell happens in this one?
The Enterprise arrives at Starbase 74 for an upgrade to their computers, giving the crew 48 hours of downtime before the next mission. Rather than just installing Windows 63 from a disk, Starfleet brings in some cybernetically enhanced aliens called the Binars to do the upgrades. Riker decides to spend his time in the holodeck recreating a 20th century jazz bar, and while a sexy hollow woman called Minuet watches, he shows her his trombone skills. Picard later joins him and is also charmed by Minuet's realistic assets. Before anyone can say Devil's Threesome, there's an emergency to deal with. The Binars steal the ship with only the two commanding officers on board. They have to save their planet, which they forgot to back up, and need the computer core to fix it. Or something. It all works out fine in the end, but Riker's fake woman disappears, and that's very sad because he wanted to show her how he played another instrument.
So Alex, you've never seen this episode before. What were your first impressions?
Well, I started watching the episode and I thought, okay, right, it's going to be this kind of episode. We're going to have the aliens interfering and it's going to turn out they're evil. Okay, yeah, we get the idea. Then I watched a bit further and I thought, oh no, it's actually going to be a holodeck episode, like we had a couple of episodes ago, and it's going to be, and they're going to get caught, and there's going to be that kind of thing. Yeah, I get the idea. Then I fell asleep. But when I rewatched it again later, I was pleasantly surprised. There were problems with it, but it's a damn sight better than what we've had up until now in these last few episodes.
Interestingly enough, they are getting better at continuity, in some ways. At the end of Datalore, they mentioned that they were on their way to Starbase 74. Instead, they went to Angel 1. Sorry, I shouldn't mention that. I know it's one of your trigger phrases.
I will kill again.
The opening special effects shot, I think, is gorgeous. I think that's one of the nicest shots we've seen with the Starbase. Obviously, reused from the original series movies, but very nice looking.
Yes, I watched that and I thought, my God, that's a fantastic model shot. It's really good for the TV series. It rings a bell, and then I realised, oh, it's in Search for Spock. That's why. Okay. If it means we get a nice shot, so be it.
I don't think a model shot can look too good, though. I think it should be as good as it possibly can be, and if they can reuse shots from the films, then go ahead.
The opening, they're going into the Starbase, and Captain Picard seems to be saying, well done, and congratulations to everyone. They've managed to steer it into the Starbase, but he does seem to be very proud of his entire crew in this episode. Is it just because they've got to mid-season and he's not managed to blow up the ship yet? I don't know, he seems a little bit too proud of all his crew members, who are essentially quite useless.
Yeah, he does seem to be forgetting all of those times that they've all been tricked or allowed law to essentially try and carry out murder and when they managed to subjugate people by accident, all those sort of things. You know, just never mind about that. You managed to steer something well done, you. It's like applauding someone for their parallel parking after they've driven down a motorway, had their caravan spin off and take out all the other cars.
Why did they even need to manually steer into the station? Surely there's some automated steering that would do it. Just like in the first episode, he makes people manually do it because he's French. That's why.
I found it a bit confusing after they'd docked, and then Commander Quinteros was coming through the airlock. I thought it was like Picard's evil twin. It's just a bald man with a beard.
Yeah, why did they feel the need to have a Patrick Stewart tribute act? I don't really understand. I mean, was that on purpose?
I don't know, because the first shot of him was from behind, so you couldn't see. So I just assumed it was Picard walking through the corridor. I didn't really quite get that, but, you know, it's nice to have more than one bald man on screen.
Yes. That's always a complaint I have just when they don't have two bald people on screen together.
This crew, who seem to have more downtime than a sinking submarine, once again are left for 48 hours for a bit of relaxation. Picard, he chooses to go to his quarters and turn on his relaxation lamp. Now, what exactly is that?
Well, one imagines that it's a light that's quite relaxing.
Wouldn't an ordinary light suffice if he's going to be reading some old novel? Probably a trashy novel, because as we know, Picard likes his pulp. I imagine he's going to read a Jackie Collins.
I think his downtime may be problematic, but it's got nothing on Riker. What are your hobbies? I don't really have any. Things just tend to come up. I bet they do.
Well, as we've seen in the past, he likes watching small women play the harp in his quarters.
I mean, as if that wasn't bad enough, he then decides to wander through the ship, pissing on everyone else's parade.
I mean, I don't know what political correctness is like in the 24th century, but...
Well, we've seen Code of Honor, I think.
It's not great, but Geordi and Data are painting, and then he basically really is I think he's ableist. I think he might be a bit racist. I don't know what the cybernetic term for that is, but a blind man teaching an android how to paint? Ha 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 ha! I think he's...
Wait, who... A blind man? Who's this blind man?
It seems Geordi's teaching him how to paint.
They haven't established that, have they? I thought his hairband fell down.
Is Geordi blind? I guess they might explore that in some future episodes. Certainly in the early ones, they never made any mention of it, so...
It's just a mystery that will have to continue for now.
We're introduced to the Binars, and one of them is called 10, and one of them is called 01.
Because it's binary. Oh, that's good, yes.
As naming conventions go, it's not a particularly good one. You are going to run out of names fairly quickly if it's all just based on a binary digit. I mean, we could run through all the permutations here, but that would be boring.
There's a planet full of these. Do they all have 2-number names?
Maybe they're really old ones, and the younger ones all have really, really long names. So it's like 1100110111111110001111.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't get all that.
No, I couldn't. What do we think of the Binars as a race? I suppose it is something different for Star Trek. They're introducing a cybernetic element to it. I mean, do you think there's any potential for a race combining sort of flesh and blood and sort of cyborg implants, we could call them? Do you think there's any potential for a race like that to become a major presence in the Star Trek universe?
No, it couldn't happen. I mean, it's been in Doctor Who since 1960s, so... You know, I don't think Star Trek would outright copy that sort of idea. Don't be silly. No, that that would never happen. It's one of the more original races that we've had in this run so far, isn't it? I mean, quite a few of them so far have been tenpenny, either Rubber Monster Man or we'll put a bit of paint on a person and try not to highlight the racial element. So yeah, it's fine. I can live with it. They're mildly creepy, but
Well, Riker doesn't trust the Binars, so he gets Wesley to watch them. Why doesn't Riker trust them? It seems a bit racist.
It does seem a little bit racist, but that seems to be the way Riker's going in this episode. And also, if he doesn't trust them, why doesn't he watch them? I'm a bit concerned that these aliens are going to try and take over the ship, but get the kid. Wesley, you have the bridge. What, Wesley, who wasn't allowed on the bridge about 6 weeks ago.
especially considering a couple of occasions now he's just outright dismissed whatever Wesley has to say. You know, an odd choice. Almost as odd as the look that Wesley keeps giving them. It's sort of, yeah, that's it. Yeah, you enter them numbers. Ooh, you enter them good. That's it. It's creepy.
Dr. Crusher in her downtime, as Riker goes to explore what she's doing, she's going to meet one of Starfleet's cybernetics experts, and she's really keen to talk to him. Now, do you not think he might want to talk to Data, or maybe Data might want to talk to him, given, you know, he is apparently the only sentient Soong-type android in the known universe? Would the sort of Starfleet's leading cybernetics expert maybe not have a slight interest in him?
No.
No?
Good, I'm glad we've cleared this up.
So Riker, for his own downtime, decides to visit the holodeck. What could possibly go wrong with a visit to the holodeck? He decides to, I think, choose perhaps the sleaziest possible setting, which is a jazz bar in New Orleans in the mid-20th century, and he wants them to give him a bone.
Riker has been one of the creepiest sex pests that you can imagine throughout this series. This episode sort of feels like we've reached a summit somewhat, and he's sort of hoping to reach a summit himself. It seems that while Picard only wants to use the holodeck to live out these historical fantasies, Riker just wants to use the holodeck for sex.
I mean, there is something distinctly creepy about the way he designs his perfect woman.
And she doesn't speak for the first 5 minutes on screen, does she? She just sits there looking sexy. That's all she's meant to do.
I think even if we assume the best intentions, the way Riker creates his perfect audience member is a little disturbing.
He's doing it in a Dixie jazz club, but I imagine it's a very similar process to what you'd go through in a Dixie brothel. Like going, no, not that one. I'll have a blonde one. Yeah, bigger there. No, smaller. Yeah, that's the one.
Saying it's all sleazy, I'm quite happy to actually see a character sort of seem to have any kind of trait at all, because they have been quite bland up to this point, and Riker seems to be smiling, which he was apparently told not to do by Gene Roddenberry, because he thought Riker should be a thoughtful kind of guy and shouldn't really be smiling much of the time. So it's nice to see him actually display some kind of personality. And hey, he can play the trombone. That's something, isn't it? Data can paint, Riker can play the trombone. We're actually getting somewhere towards these people being humans and doing something other than just being boring Starfleet drones.
Yes, I mean, there's nothing euphemistic about when he's trying to pull the fact that he gets his trombone out. That idea that Riker shouldn't smile. So you have two deeply serious leading men. That would have been awful. It's just another reason why I'm glad Gene Roddenberry's involvement tails off. Bizarrely, he's one of the characters that you can latch onto more, because a lot of the others just have very sort of one or two note traits to them. She's a doctor. He's an android who doesn't understand feelings. He's blind. But Riker's seems a little more developed, even if most of it seems to be, I'm a sex pest. But it is quite creepy. I mean, let's be honest. Going there to do that it's kind of the equivalent of a man who keeps a creepy blow-up doll in a way. She's not real, and even if you work on the basis that she has some sort of artificial intelligence, I'm not sure the moral question of consent is one that we have cleared up here.
But she's better than any of the holograms that anybody's seen before. You know, she has more personality and reacts and seems intelligent. But I seem to remember in The Big Goodbye, Picard's partner seemed to develop self-awareness and wondered what this world was all about. So have we not actually seen this before?
Yeah, but you couldn't have sex with him.
Well, I think that is, you know, an interesting point there. And as much as when you start the episode, you do just think, oh, it's going to be aliens interfering with the ship, and we thought we trusted them, but we don't. And then as it develops, you think, oh, it's a holodeck episode. And it's not until later on that it sort of develops into something new. But that does, again, feel like you're about to tread old ground, doesn't it?
It does, but I feel like she's sparingly enough here that it's forgivable. Actually, at one point, The Big Goodbye was intended to air after this, so the upgrades that they mention in that episode would probably have made a whole lot more sense. It didn't work out that way, but, you know, you can forgive the sort of production schedules of a TV show and the various reasons for changing episode orders. Maybe if it had been done small in this episode and then they'd done a full-on holodeck episode a bit later on, it might have felt a bit more natural. But yes, they do tend to go over the same ground a little bit. But here, I think there's enough new stuff that I can forgive it anyway.
Well, this show, I mean, there's 100 and odd episodes of this, and then loads of Voyager and loads of Deep Space Nine. They go over the same thing over and over again. This shakes it up a bit, and that's what they need to do, because oftentimes you can't just do, we go to a new planet and they have a new forehead, and then something happens. They want to do episodes on the ship, so they've got to do something goes wrong in the holodeck. But they've changed it up, and I think this is one of the better episodes. I think it's unfortunate that it comes so soon after The Big Goodbye, even when it was meant to go before it.
Yeah, I think the proximity it doesn't help it to any degree whatsoever. However, as we said, the fact that it does change it up after this is a very good thing, and that's what elevates it. If it had just been continuing in this vein that we've got here, that would not have been so good.
Picard goes to visit Riker in the holodeck, sees that he is busy, shall we say, but proceeds to join them anyway. Is he just being a total gooseberry?
Yes.
Well, no, he goes to leave, and then Riker insists that he stays.
Yeah, and then conducts in some serious flirting with Minuet, with a variety of French.
Do you know, I imagine there's some imaginative fan fiction that fills in the gap that we don't see, the time they spend on the holodeck. Some strange stuff goes down on that bar.
And you're going to read it now.
The Binars are using the holodeck. It's actually good to see it being utilised. They're using it as a distraction, while they also want to evacuate the ship by setting off some kind of warp core reaction to clear out the remaining Enterprise crew members. I'm not quite sure why they need to distract Riker in that way. I suppose it's cause he was suspicious, but if there was going to be a warp core breach, presumably he would also evacuate the ship.
But didn't they want people to be on the ship in case they didn't reach the planet in time? Riker was just the stupid one who was easily manipulated.
He follows his cock, yes.
As we all know, you can catch a cold from the holodeck, so does that mean you can get holodeck STDs as well?
Logically, yes.
Yeah, that's not a very good episode of Voyager.
Now, the Binars steal the Enterprise, flying it to their home world. Once again, nobody at all is required to fly this ship. This ship, which has over 1,000 crew members, yet nobody is needed to fly it. Why do they have a crew at all?
Well, it's not 1,000 crew members. There's a lot of families on board.
I think the thing that I found odd about that logic is that not so much it could be flown by one person as how have they got all of this information on the ship's computer? Would that not overwrite what's there? It seems like quite a lot.
They've got an external hard drive.
Essentially what they've done is turned the Enterprise into an external hard drive while they, I don't know, run an antivirus scan on their planet. It doesn't seem that clear to me what's going on. There's some kind of computer malfunction. They need another computer, so they're stealing the Enterprise to go and do that.
Well, I mean, it's never really nailed down the whole thing of how the race and the computers, how they're all integrated. Yet, when you've got those scenes, it sort of moves along a pace enough that you don't dwell on it and don't really care. I would say that if anything is moving particularly slowly, it's the scenes with Minuet. And I don't feel it really picks up until after the ship's been evacuated. At that point, we really sort of set course for what this episode is. Up until that point, it's a little more slow and ponderous, and maybe it's just the fact that we're dealing with Riker being kind of creepy. But yeah, I never particularly dwelt upon how the logistics of it work greatly.
But I think it is nice that for once it doesn't end with we need to shoot something. You know, it's we need to just move information onto our ship and then reset their hard drive. It's nice that it's not. We have to shoot an asteroid or we have to kill those people. It's a nice ending.
Yeah, I mean, it ends on a surprisingly, never mind, from Picard, which isn't necessarily what you expect. Oh, well, no one's been hurt, it's fine. Although that's slightly undermined with, no one's been hurt, it's fine, we'll go back. You know, you don't need to worry. I mean, you will have to go and face a trial over this, but it's fine, no one's going to mind. The trial, don't mind the trial, forget about the trial.
It's slightly nuanced. You do have characters acting like people, like you'd hope they would act, rather than, you know, their actions serving the plot or the script. It does seem to be a bit more natural. It does seem to be growing a little bit as a show with this, and maybe that's the actors finding their way, maybe that they just happened upon a semi-decent script, but it is nice not to have people acting like idiots and making you shout at the television.
I think it's also, it helps that it's one of the rare examples of an episode that gives us a justification for actions. Why did you do this? Well, we had to. Yeah, but why? Well, you might have said no. Okay, it's a basic reason, but it gives us a far better motivation for them than we've had in a lot of other episodes. You know, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the episode is great. There's things that I didn't feel worked as well as they should have, but I still feel that being slightly better really just elevates this up to a much higher standard than the likes of Angel 1, Code of Honor, anything like that.
Well, it's not incredibly offensive, so that elevates it above all of them.
I think if I had to pick the part that really lets it down a little bit, and I don't know, maybe it's a controversial opinion, but I think it's Minuet. I think there's far too much time spent on it early on where we don't really care enough. And I kind of felt that there should have been a stronger draw in the holodeck to keep Riker there. It's sort of slightly based on happenstance, and maybe that's, what the writer wants. It's just he's staying there because he's intrigued. I think what I would have liked is something more akin to what you have in the second Red Dwarf novel, where they're in the game Better Than Life, but they're enjoying themselves so much that though they know they need to leave, they can never bring themselves to leave. I kind of think that bringing in that element would have been more interesting. If you'd done away with some of the stuff earlier on with Riker flirting in a kind of uncomfortable way, and brought in an element like that, you could have filled out the time better and it would have felt more even rather than a little lopsided in the second half.
Well, they could have just had a hologram holding him hostage on the holodeck.
Yeah, if you'd had Minuet go from, being quite flirty with him to suddenly turning, which you get to a degree, but if you'd pushed that a bit further, it would have sort of taken the episode up a gear a bit earlier on, which I kind of needed a little bit.
I think you need more from the writing and from the performance in this case. If she is going to be the most incredible woman, the most nuanced character, someone who we could actually believe that Riker might fall in love with, and, in turn, we as an audience also have to, in some way, fall in love with the character and be rooting for them to get together, but she doesn't seem in any way special or different, and in the short time that you've got with her, they really need to push that home, that this is something that could be plausible for Riker to actually think, well, can I have a relationship with a hologram? As it turns out, it just looks like he's a bit bored and horny.
I mean, it only comes across in a couple of places. You've got the fact that she's the physical image that he would like, but he programmed that. And the fact that she's in a jazz bar, why is it not Dixie? Can't dance to Dixie. Fine, but again, you programmed the location. What you needed it in was in the conversation. And you have him turn to Picard and say, she's incredible, we never have this kind of interaction. But when he's saying that, all that's happening is he's telling her a story and she's going, no, you must be a really strong character. No. Oh, it's like listening to Sybil Fawlty on the end of a phone line. Oh, I know. I know. I know. That's about the level of interaction. It's the kind of other end of a conversation you have when you just cannot be bothered to listen to what the other person has to say. Yeah? Yeah, I suppose so. Well, I'm just going to go... No. Yeah. 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 Yeah, no, I do know what you mean. I do. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, and what's Riker saying? He's just, I'm so focused on my career, I want to be the captain of a starship. Can you see me as the captain of a starship?
Oh, yes.
I think I'd be a great captain. I might grow a beard. Do you think I'd look good with a beard? I think it would give me authority. So that's in some ways a failing of the writing.
Well, I don't know about failing so much, because the episode works. I think the fact we're all in agreement that it's better than what we've had so far. Both with the perspective that you have of what comes later and what I have of having not seen it. I think we can all agree it is just inherently better. It's just that there are some ways that you could elevate it that bit further, and I think if you did elevate it that bit further, it would be the best episode of the run. As it is, it sort of sits alongside some of the others. But it just has this bit of potential that just needs to be pushed that little bit further.
What we're demanding is greatness. That's what we want from this show. We want it to elevate to the next level. And it's, it's trundling above mediocrity in this episode, I would say. And that's welcome.
Yay!
The thing is, Next Generation is such a popular show and it gets so much praise, and then you watch the first season and you can't really justify it from this season.
No, and I think that's one of the things, trying to view it as you would come into the show cold, which, as I do, if I were watching this as it went out, I know it's the same sort of experience now, I would be thinking with this episode, okay, well, there is a lot more potential here than I've seen in previous weeks. There's enough to make me think it's worth coming back to again.
So Riker and Picard, they decide to initiate a self-destruct sequence, a great staple of Star Trek, here seen in the Next Generation for the first time. That's exciting, isn't it?
I'm going to be honest, that system did not seem incredibly secure to me. The thing that had me not jumping up and down at the screen but thinking, really, was the fact that they initiate it and then stand around talking.
It's very Star Trek The Next Generation, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, at no point in that 5-minute countdown do they ever seem in a particular hurry.
It is justified that they did set the auto-destruct.
Yeah, there's a reason given for it. I think after that, though, with the, it's going to go wrong. No, it's fixed now. It's fine. Oh, really? That was quite... It seemed like there was quite a serious problem. You know, it seems so serious that we had to put the auto-destruct, because if you're in control of it, and, you know, that's fine. It's no problem. Yeah. Don't need to worry about it anymore. Oh, okay. Fine.
The other interesting thing about that auto-destruct sequence was it seemed to have a special petrol station style countdown in little red lights that we've not seen anywhere else in the Enterprise, which seems to be made up of screens, but no, this has a really cheap looking kind of light board to do the countdown for that.
I mean, for any, you know, faults of the countdown, I mean, it's mostly fine. And the fact that you have the whole finale thing with the having to enter the code. Oh, the binars, it's binary, so maybe we both have to do it. Yes, and, you know, okay, maybe that's a little obvious. At least it adds a bit of excitement. And God knows that's been missing in recent episodes.
And peril. Well, I suppose the countdown doesn't feel real, but, you know, when that Enterprise is going to explode and it's getting stolen out of space dock, that's quite exciting. You believe that. Everybody beams off. It's a proper panic.
Yeah, they lose the pace of it a bit after that. You know, once it's actually flown away, once they're making their way up to the bridge, it starts to lose a bit of the pace off it. But at least it feels like it's going somewhere.
And this new sense of direction actually only involves 2 of the main cast, and that's a good thing. I would rather focus on 2 characters doing something interesting than trying to give 6 something to do just to pad out the episode. We've talked a lot about B-plots in previous episodes, and here we don't really have one.
No, well, its 2 plots are the binars on the bridge and Minuet in the holodeck, and that's fine. That's what you need to concentrate on. Anything else would be extraneous, and a worse writer would have got that very badly wrong, and God knows we've had a few of them in this series.
Would you not want to watch Worf and Yar's Parisi Square match?
It's tempting, especially because he's apparently developed a sense of humour. I'm looking forward to his stand-up set in future episodes.
No, I think you'll prefer to see Data's stand-up set.
Yay.
So overall, I think we can agree that it's a pretty solid episode, and certainly a lot better than what we've been seeing across the recent episodes.
Yeah, I think so. As I say, it's the first one in a while that's made me go, well, there's some promise to the future there.
So let's have a roundup of the various random thoughts we had when watching this episode in our quickfire round.
Quickfire.
According to the script, a working title for this episode was 10101001.
It's just not as snappy as this one, is it?
You know, an awful lot of Riker's lines, if you put some sort of Bernard Herrmann score underneath them, are an awful lot more creepy. Why not Dixieland? Because you can't dance to it. My girl. Or just sexually creepy. Gentlemen, if this is what you call enhancement, you've got a gift for understatement. Stop looking at it.
11001001 is 201 in binary, but if you put a decimal point in after the second one, then it becomes pi. It's a little bit of number trivia for you.
Computer, am I to understand that the Binars have stolen the Enterprise? That information is not available. Why are we suddenly moved into riddle me this, computer?
Rather than opening comms from a station like you normally would to contact an external vessel or station, Picard just hits his comm badge to contact Starbase 74. Is that the Starfleet system? Can you contact literally anyone in Starfleet just by hitting your comm badge? I mean, What if you got their name wrong? Or what if you got a crossed line? That seems like there's far too many problems just to do that with the simple tap of a badge.
We've got Data showing a bit of emotion, almost. When he's saying, am I responsible? And Tasha and Geordie have to console him, almost.
Yeah, that was good. More of that.
But Data is meant to be emotionless. And he seems to be displaying almost remorse.
I think there's room to play around with that, though. The idea that you create a being without emotions, but as a byproduct of his intelligence, you have something heading towards it being created as a byproduct.
The computer voice of the Enterprise has always been a female voice, going back to the original series, and now in Star Trek The Next Generation, it's the voice of Major Barrett Roddenberry. But when they activate the self-destruct, it's a male voice. Why is that?
Doesn't love always begin that way, with the illusion being more real than the woman? Spoken like a true Frenchman. No, that would be Ne percez-moi toujours commencer de ce façon, avec l'illusion d'entrer plus le rire que le film?
Je m'appelle James, je suis anglais.
There are no other ships in the system. The nearest one is 66 hours away. If you think how fast warp is, 66 hours would seem quite distant. Is the Enterprise somewhere where there are no other ships? In which case, why is there a giant starbase? Next time we will be back talking about Too Short a Season. I hope you'll join us then, but for now, from me, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. I seem to recall there was a phrase in it, at heart, everyone wants to be Parisian. Try telling that to the North Vietnamese. That's quite a historical joke there that relies on a knowledge of the Vietnam conflict and France's control of South Vietnam. Thank you. Historically accurate jokes, that's what we're going for now.